Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Off Topic with Deron Wilson. I am your host, and with me today is my good friend Mark Crawford. Hey Mark.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good.
Hello, everyone.
We are coming to you today on November 10th, 2018, and it just happens to be the birthday of the United States Marine Corps. How many years young are they now?
We'll be 243 years old.
The Marine Corps is 243 years young today. That's amazing. And Mark is also Marine, so I figured it quite appropriate to have a Marine for my first guest on their birthday. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Let's start with where you were born.
I was born in Los Angeles, a little small city of Compton, and I grew up there for a majority part of my life, and then we moved back and forth from Compton to Watts, and then back to Compton, and that was my elementary and junior high school years, and then finally I moved to Compton, where I went to high school.
Okay, and you were telling me earlier that you were in the ROTC in high school.
Yeah, in junior high school, your senior year of junior high school, you can elect for ROTC, and it was naval ROTC, so it was kind of catered to the Navy. All branches of service have their ROTC,
Okay.
but this one was catered to the Navy. So, as when my senior year rolled around, I saw it. It looked intriguing, so I thought, yeah, I'll sign up for it, and I joined naval. It was under naval science was the name of the subject study.
Okay, and it obviously sparked something in you. That's pretty much where your military career started.
That's where it started. I like the uniform. I like the structure, and so that's what attracted me to it.
Okay, so obviously, kids in high school pick on the ROTC kids,
Yes, as a matter of fact.
unfortunately.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were referred to as roaches.
Roaches?
Yeah, the other
Wonderful.
kid.
ROTC is a great place to start. If you hate high school or you're looking for a path to go down,
Right.
it's got structure. It's a great place to start.
Well, it was ideal for me because at that time in junior high school, you're kind of discovering yourself. So with this coming along, it helped you kind of just not only discover yourself, but it kind of pushed you a little bit, more so than your parents did at home. Because in ROTC, you were expected, you had a job to do. You were expected to know your job. You were expected to do your job. And if you didn't, there were consequences for it. So you just couldn't run around free like the rest of the students. You had, responsibilities.
You had goals and you had to meet them.
You had goals and you had responsibilities and you had to meet them. And there was a price to pay if you didn't. And so I kind of liked that.
So what was it? Just kind of a general ROTC, or was there a specific function or specific path?
Yes, after school, and during school, it was a class taught. We taught naval history. We were taught naval science. We were taught about ships and how they're named and the designators that are given to different ships: destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers. These all had nomenclature. So we learned the nomenclatures of all these ships. And then we learned history. We learned about important naval firsts, like the first time an aircraft ever flew off an aircraft carrier, things like that. So, and naval battles, Tarawa, all these kind of things, Hawaii, Pearl Harbor. We learned all these important histories of the Navy.
So there was a lot of academic.
There was a lot of academic. Moreover, after school, we had what was called formation, and that's where you did your drill. you're marching, all you're practicing, sometimes in uniform, sometimes in regular clothes. But after school is when you did your drill.
Okay, so that was the physical part of it.
That was the physical part of it.
Was it like a glorified gym class or a mini version of boot camp? Or
It was like a miniature boot camp. It really was.
Okay.
It was where you learned to march because not everybody had come from a military background or a band or anything like that. So you have to teach these kids how to march, how to walk in formation, how to walk in step, how to listen to cadence, to commands, prep for commands like a column left or column right where you turn the formation, either left or right or to the rear or these kind of commands. And once you got good at these commands, you got to perform in parades. You got to perform at opening ceremonies of different, senior citizen homes. And that was a treat for us because that meant you get to go to this big fancy dinner and you get to unfurl the flag for like colors, do a color ceremony for retirement homes or some business that's just opening up or a new hotel or a new hospital. You got to perform, and that was something everybody really looked forward to.
a sense of pride.
A sense of pride, exactly. It is still a sense of pride at a very young age. Yeah.
So it was well worth it.
It was well worth it.
So we're all in big trouble for making fun of the ROTC kids in school.
Exactly. Because they will go on.
Not saying I was one of them, but we all had our moments.
There you go.
Right, people? Okay, fast forward. Did you join the military straight out of high school, or is there a gap?
I did. I signed up for what was called Delayed Entry Program in January of 1985. You could raise your hand and swear that you're going to join the military while you're in high school at the time. So it's just ceremonial. There's nothing holding you to the fact that you have to join the military, but it allows you to raise your hand and swear that you are going to join the military when you join out of high school. And it's just something you just look forward to.
Personal commitment.
Personal commitment. And so shortly after you graduate from high school, they send you to a place called MEPS. And MEPS is where you do the full medical examination to join any branch of military. You'll have the Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, all at this facility, taking what is quintessential a day-long exam. You'll get there at 5 in the morning and you won't leave until 11, 10 o'clock at night. And it's a full battery. You're doing blood, you're doing eyes, you're doing hearing, you're doing sight, you're doing reaching, you're doing everything you can possibly think of to the human body to test it, to make sure that you're fit for the military,
Okay.
make sure you're not flat-footed, make sure all these kind of things. So, yeah, make sure you don't have sickle cell anemia, these kind of things that would bar you from joining the military.
Okay, so you chose the Marines, but you, in high school, the ROTC was more naval focused.
Correct. The funny story about that is I was due to join the Navy. But the funny thing is the facility that housed all the recruit offices, when you walk through the front door, the first two doors that you see are the Army and the Marine Corps. You have to walk past that to get to the Navy and the Air Force office, which is down the hall. So one day I came in to go see my recruiter because they have what are called poolee parties, where the group of guys that are getting ready to join the military, they come to the recruiter office to do exercise to get physically fit to join the military if they aren't physically fit. And so I came to see my recruiter, and the Marine recruiter was standing outside smoking a cigar. And he asked me, "Where are you going?" Now, at the time, I was 140 pounds, soaking wet with bricks in my pocket. And so I walked past him, and He asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to see my recruiter." And he says, "Well, before you see your recruiter, or when you go home tonight and you're laying in your bed, I want you to get out of bed and I want you to straddle a mirror. And if you see anything swinging between your legs, you give me a call." And he slammed the door in my face. And I didn't think nothing of it at the time. And so I just went to go see my recruiter. But sure enough, that night I was laying in bed. And you got to remember, at that young age, you didn't want anybody to punk you.
Right.
And I felt like this guy tried to punk me. So I figured I'd show him I'd join the Marine Corps. But it was kind of like a reverse psychology thing going on. But I was totally unaware.
Right. He won.
He won. And so I went back the next day and I said, "I changed my mind. I want to join the Marine Corps." And he said, "Absolutely not. You cannot join my Marine Corps," and slammed the door again. And it just made me develop what I didn't even know was resolve. I was going to join the Marine Corps and show this guy that I do have what it takes. You can't talk to me like that. So sure enough, about a week later, I went back to the Marine Corps recruiting office and I said, "I'm going to join the Marine Corps." And he goes, "You sure you want to join the Marine Corps?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to join the Marine Corps." He said, "You'll never make it." And that set in my mind a certain resolve that I was going to become a United States Marine. You were either going to give me the title or you were going to send me home in a box. I didn't know at the time that what lied ahead would be the hardest training in the Department of Defense, but I had that resolve that I was going to be a United States Marine and nothing was going to stop me.
So his reverse psychology put focus and determination in you
It
without
didn't
you even
still
knowing it.
focus and determination without me even knowing it. And sure enough, on September 13th of 1985, when the bus pulled up to MCRD San Diego for boot camp training, I realized I had made a very, very big mistake. But that thought process goes through everybody.
Sure.
That goes through that goes and stands on those yellow footprints. First thought is, what have I done? And that thought bounce around in your head the whole time you're in what's called receiving. It's where the Marine Corps receives the civilian and the transformation from a civilian to a Marine begins. And it's at that moment that you need to make a decision. You're either going to get this title or you're going to die trying.
Okay.
If you do not go there with that mindset, you will not make it through Marine Corps boot camp. You will not make it, because the guy who got on the bus was every bit of 245 solid muscle, and I'm 140 soaking wet with bricks in my pocket. This guy's going to tear me apart, but that's what he's going to have to do, because I'm here for a purpose.
So the determination outweighed the fear.
The determination outweighed the fear.
What are the yellow footsteps you just mentioned?
It's a place where you get off that's the first thing you see when you join the Marine Corps. When you get off that bus, you get on these yellow footprints, and that's where you're indoctrinated into the Marine Corps. They tell you military justice. There's like a brief briefing on laws in the military. You're no longer allowed to say me or I. You're to refer to yourself in the third person. This recruit, that recruit, those recruits. There's no me or I. And that's to stump out the individualism that you come from. Now you're a team.
Right.
And that's instilled throughout boot camp.
From those first two steps.
Exactly. They smash the individualism out of you. And that's where the term brainwash comes from. It's because to do that, you almost have to train someone to think differently. And that's what happens.
But it is calculated.
It is calculated. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're on the bus, dead scared.
Right.
surrounded by a bunch of meat
3 o'clock in the morning
on your way to boot camp.
on your way to boot camp.
Where did you go for your boot camp training?
MCRD San Diego. There's two places you can be. There's MCRD San Diego and Paris Island, MCRD Paris Island. Now, if you're born west of the Mississippi, you will go to MCRD San Diego,
Okay.
and you're a male. If you're born east of the Mississippi, you will go to Paris Island, North Carolina. And if you're a female, you'll go also to, that's the only place females train for boot camp is in Paris Island. But it's separated by the Mississippi River.
Okay, so you land at boot camp. Your next two steps off the bus.
As far as training,
Yeah.
okay, you'll get off the bus onto the Yellow Footprints. You'll be indoctrinated into Military Code of Justice. It's the law. It's kind of like the Constitution of the armed forces across all branches. And then you'll be allowed to make a phone call home and tell your parents that I have arrived in San Diego. I am safe. Please do not send any packages or parcels. I will be contacting you later at a later date. And I still remember that from 30 years ago. That's all you're allowed to say. It's scripted. You cannot deviate from the script. And that's the last time your parents hear from you for almost 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
So when you got off the bus, did you have any time to just kind of settle in, or was it straight to work?
It was straight to work. You are straight to work. You don't carry a suitcase to boot camp because they are going to issue you everything. So you just have the clothes on your back. And even those clothes are taken from you within 4 hours. And you're issued your first uniform and underwear and everything. And you put those clothing items that you wore to boot camp in a box, and you will not see those again for 12 weeks. The first week is receiving. You're issued ID cards. You're issued. You do your wheel. You do where you want your money to go while you're in boot camp because you don't get to spend it. You're issued uniforms, and then you start your training. First week is a lot of classroom, academic type training. And then the second week is more like drill, the beginning of drill. It's also your first physical training test. First PFT is what it's called. And that's to get a baseline of how are you physically. And so then from there, your third week probably be more drill. That's a basic drill. Fourth, fifth, sixth week is probably like water survival, how to swim. Then the sixth, seventh week will be like marksmanship, how to shoot a weapon, how to fire, and also in Marine Corps boot camp, it's the Army, Navy, and Air Force. They all shoot at 200 and 300 yards. In the Marine Corps, you have to qualify at 300, at 200, 300, and 500 yards. If you do not pass, you will be recycled until you do. And so that's the hallmark of the Marine Corps is marksman first. You might drive a truck, but you're better with that piece than anything. Mm-hmm. And that's the backbone of the Marine Corps. We have a saying, every Marine is a marksman, and that's our bread and butter.
And obviously there's a lot of safety, weapons safety that you guys...
Weapon safety, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, breathing control. And not only are you a marksman, but you also work in what's called the butts. And the butts is the pits where the rounds are being shot at you, but you're below ground, so the rounds are buzzing over your head. You hear ricochets, and that's calculated because it's the only time you can be shot at in boot camp. Not directly, but get the sense that bullets are coming at you, and so that's part of the training.
Interesting. I did not know that about that part of it as well.
Well, there's no way that they can induce you into, or there's no way they can put you in combat in boot camp. So everything is simulated.
Right.
That's why there's constant yelling. That's why there's no one tells you what's going to happen next. You have no idea what's going to happen next. You just have to kind of like go with the flow. And it's not like they show you the training schedule for the next couple of weeks. You have no idea what's coming next. And so, and you, to be in that type of environment for 13 weeks, it takes a special kind of person.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because that's kind of what combat is like. You have no idea what's coming
Special
next.
kind of training to get you used to it.
Exactly.
So fast forward to graduation day, boot camp graduation.
It is by all means the greatest day. You are like liberated. Up until boot camp, you literally get by making it from chow hall to chow hall. That's a strategy that a lot of people adopt too, is if I can just make it from breakfast to lunch, that's a victory for me. And if I can make it from lunch to dinner, that's a victory for me. And after dinner, all that's left at that time is cleaning up the barracks. You have an hour to write a letter home and read a letter that's coming from home. And then you have an hour to pray, and then it's time to get into bed. And you might have guard duty that night. So if you have guard duty, you won't get your full 7 hours of sleep because 4 of them will be on
patrol.
So, and it just goes from one recruit to the next. Before you go to bed that night, you know who you will have to wake up and where his bed is. So you don't have to be stumbling through the barracks at night. So that's the end of the day. And everybody looks forward to the end of the day. And then they also look forward to the end of training. Now, the funny thing about the end of training is all of a sudden this guy that you couldn't not do anything right to or for, all of a sudden he calls you a Marine one day. And it's like,
stop dead in your tracks.
You don't know how to handle it, because up until now you could not do anything right. Even if you did it right, it was still wrong. And they keep you in that environment to where you really start thinking, I can't do anything without this person to show me the correct way to do it. And then for one day for him to say, stop calling me sir, I'm a Marine just like you are. It's kind of surreal, and when you're performing the week before you graduate, they use the class that's graduating the week after kind of like a filler crowd for the class that's graduating. So you're in the parade of the graduating class and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is going to be me next week. I'm going to have the title. I made it. I hope, because anything can happen in that week. You can make a drill instructor really angry, and he can send you all the way back to just after the yellow footprints. It's called recycle.
So you start your 13 weeks over?
All over again. And you do not want that.
You only went through once.
Once, yes.
Okay. Shoo.
Yeah. But if the drill instructors have that
power.
That power to, if you start acting up like, oh, I got this, or nobody's going to stop me, he can just.
Anybody in your class get sent back?
Yes, 2 guys. got sent back to, got what was called recycle.
Hopefully they straightened up real quick after
And
that.
they straightened up real quick.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously made it through. You graduated.
Yes.
Where were you stationed from there?
I got 10 days leave after boot camp.
Okay.
I got to come home. I graduated December 13th of 1985.
Oh, I forgot to ask you, how much weight did you gain?
I came into boot camp at 136, and I left boot camp 156 muscle.
Nice.
So, yeah, I was a big boy.
Nice.
The transformation is unreal.
So you got paid to go to the gym.
You got paid to go to the gym. Yeah. I recall one night I was coming out of the shower, and they have these full-length mirrors, and I walked past the mirror, but naked. And I looked, and I was like, whose body is that? It was as if someone chopped my head off and put it on somebody else's body. It was that amazing. I had never had pecs and washboard abs like that before.
Did you think, forget the military, I'm going into modeling?
It crossed my mind. It really did. It really did.
Okay, so 10 days of leave.
10 days of leave, and then I had to report to 29 Palms
Okay.
for what is
California.
what is my chosen MOS. Everybody in the military has a job, and my job was communications, radio communications. The school for that is in 29 Palms. It's called FROC School, Field Radio Operators Course. And it's part of CNE, which is Communication and Electronics, which is in 29 Palms. And so I reported to that base and got ready to start communication school.
Nice. Okay. How long did you spend there?
6 months. The first month I was there, they have you doing general chores around the base, like cleaning up. If they need to build something, then you help them build it until you start school. And so the first week is working parties. We call it working parties. And you do that until you start school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go after 29 Palms?
And when you finish school, at the time they had what was called a dream sheet. Now you could put on this dream sheet anywhere you'd like to go that the Marine Corps is stationed, and they let you pick anywhere. The problem is, if the Marine Corps has a need for your MOS, your job, your specialty, in say Hawaii, and you put Japan, Camp Pendleton, Arizona, guess what? You're going to Hawaii.
Right.
Because they put you where they need you.
Right.
But if your MOS has a lot of people and they can send you to one of those places on the dream sheet, then you'll get your choice. But it's not guaranteed. That's why it's called a dream sheet. And my dream was embassy duty Europe, Japan, and Camp Pendleton. And I got Japan.
Oh, nice.
So that started a 3-year tour to Japan.
3 years.
3 years, yes.
And did you learn how to speak Japanese?
I did learn to speak Japanese. First thing I did was take advantage of that. I kind of jumped on the Japanese stereotype that I was an African American, that I played basketball well. Well, I don't, but I used it to my advantage. I jumped in a taxi with a basketball, and I told the taxi driver, take me to the #1 university on the island of Okinawa. Now, Okinawa is only 13 miles long, 8 miles wide, so it's a small island. And so I jumped in this taxi. He takes me to the university, and I jump out, and the taxi takes off. And it was as if I was being dropped off on the moon, because I had no idea how I was going to get back to base. I didn't know where base was, but I just kind of walked out on faith. So I walked into this gym. Obviously, I looked different than everybody in the gym So everyone stopped doing whatever they were doing. I think at the time was badminton. They played a lot of badminton in Japan, and wondered who was this person that just walked in here. And soon
They all
news,
try to pick you to be on their team?
yeah, and so soon news traveled across the campus that this foreigner was in the gym, and next thing you know, this gym is full of people. So I'm feeling kind of like a celebrity. This is kind of cool, you know. So first I played 1-on-1 with a Japanese student, and then we made teams, and then it was boys against girls, and 6-man, 3-man scrimmages on basketball. No one spoke English. I didn't speak Japanese. Our common language was basketball at the time. So then one student comes running across the campus, and he says, "Hi, my name is Futoshi. I'm head of the English club here at the University of Ryukyu," was the name of the university. It also was the original name of the island of Okinawa. It used to be called Ryukyu Island, but now it's called Okinawa. So he says, I'm head of the English club here at the University of Ryukyu, and we could use a native speaker. Can you help us? And I was like, sure. So after we played basketball all day and I took a shower, I went over to the English club, and that's where I met the English club, the university, the students in there. They're all English literature students who are learning English to teach English to Japanese students. So I help them learn and pronounce English, and they help me learn and pronounce Japanese. So it's kind of like a give and take situation.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I got to go to a Japanese university for 3 years for free.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid because you're in
And
the
I'm getting
military.
paid. I was in the
You're a
military.
Marine.
Right. Right.
Win-win.
Win-win.
Okay, so 3 years in Japan. What other bases did you
Okay.
work at?
The great thing about being stationed on Okinawa is that you're not just stationed on that island. You will leave that island to go to, say, Korea for what's called cold weather training, because it's cold in Korea. So you leave Okinawa, fly to Korea, and participate in cold weather training. It's a big operation called Operation Team Spirit. It's the biggest in the Pacific for cold weather training. And then you'll stay there for 2 months, 3 months, and then fly back to Okinawa. And then there was a crisis in the Philippines where they had an earthquake, and I had to fly from Okinawa to the Philippines to give humanitarian relief for the victims of that earthquake, and then fly back to Okinawa. We stayed in the Philippines for 10 days that time, then fly back to Okinawa, and then fly to, say, Thailand to train with the Thailand Marines. They have Marines also. So we trained with them, and then we fly back to Okinawa. So you're stationed in Okinawa, but you'll see more countries while you're
Right.
in Okinawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you joined in 1985.
Right.
And how many years did you serve?
I served 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
Best decision of your life?
By far. I don't regret. As a matter of fact, I look back on my military experience very fondly. It was the best thing I could do at the time as a young man was to join the military, and it's helped me so much in my life afterwards. The discipline, the bearing, to be prepared, to know your job, know your enemy if you have any, how to fight, not so much physically, but strategically how to fight, preparation, never give up. All these things I learned from the military, and so they've helped me along the way, in challenges that I faced after the military, and I was able to overcome those by what I learned in the military.
So you would recommend to any high school student or kid growing up that the military is a good choice?
Yeah, I would say, listen, college isn't for everyone, just as the military is not for everyone.
Right.
But as far as getting you prepared for, let's say you wanted to work in heavy equipment, there's nobody that will train you more about heavy equipment than, say, the military.
Right.
Case in point, when I got out of the military, it was during the Rodney King situation, and I saw a CNN truck with its antenna, microwave antenna, raised. Well, I knew the capabilities of that truck before I even saw it, because we have one in the military that does the exact same thing. So I walked up to the truck. I said, listen, this is me. I just got out of the military, but I did communications. I know everything about this truck. Is there any way that I can get hired on? And it was a guy by the name of Reggie Hamilton. He worked for CNN at the Hollywood Bureau. And he said, listen, it's a little hectic right now, but here's my card. Give me a call in about, 4 or 5 weeks, and we'll see what we can do. Now, Reggie Hamilton was prior Air Force, but he did communications. So he already knew my capabilities,
Right,
because he was in the military. So sure enough, I contacted him later, and he said, come down to the CNN Bureau on Sunset, and let's have a talk. And sure enough, I went down, I met him, and he said, this is a camera. You know how to operate one of these? It was a camera on a pedestal. And I said, no, I've never used one of these in my life. And he stayed that evening and showed me how to use this camera. And so I came back the next day and started working on Showbiz Live with Larry King on camera.
sweet.
And so here I am off and running, and I'm working at CNN. Now, this was a non-union shop, but it's CNN, so working there for a year or 2 years, freelancing, kicked in a lot of doors for me
Right.
in broadcasting.
Right.
So I went from CNN to KTLA, and I did remote audio for the morning shows and there was a show called Making It. It was an entrepreneur spirited program that showed people who come from other countries how they made it. And it was called Making It. And I worked on that show as audio, remote audio. And I got to see how these people were coming from Thailand, Vietnam, Russia, coming to this country with nothing in their pocket and making a multi-million-dollar company. Front row seat. So I was like, how lucky could I be? These people are telling me how they did it, and I'm recording this. So I took that spirit, all those lessons that those folks showed me, and I used it towards myself. And so it went from KTLA to another station called KSCI, Channel 18, which is a group of foreign broadcasters, French, German, Chinese, Japanese, all these different Spanish, all these different stations under one roof. And I got to see what is called international satellites. How do you get a signal from Russia to the United States?
So your military training basically gave you an extensive resume and got your whole body in the front door
Got my whole body in the front door.
straight away.
Yes. And it was great. And it just kept continuing. And then the next thing I knew, I was working with Japanese production companies who come over from Japan because I could speak Japanese. They come over from Japan, and then we go around the country shooting documentaries, sports, just traveling all over the place. It was great, So
no regrets for being taunted by the recruiter
No regrets. No regrets.
back when you walked through
And
that front door.
I could not have done those things without my experience in the military. There's no way. So
And no regrets for not joining the Navy.
no regrets for not joining the Navy.
Nothing against the Navy.
No. This, as a matter of fact, the Marine Corps falls under the Department of the Navy.
Okay.
So they're still our boss. So in essence, I joined the Navy, but the Marine Corps department.
Right.
Yeah. So I kept my promise.
Okay, so let's talk about how the Marine Corps started 243 years ago.
Congress okayed the forming of 2 battalions of Marines. And these Marines' primary job were to fight on ships at the time, to do any fighting from ship to ship at the time. They manned the guns. If there was any physical fighting that needed to be going on, they did that. So as time went by, the Marine Corps grew larger and larger, and it was started in a place called Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. And so I have to give you the name of the gentleman who started the Marine Corps. But in essence, he was the first recruiter. And then he recruited one person, and then they recruited more, and it just grew and grew and grew. But our official birthplace is Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. And that's where every Marine will be learned in Marine Corps history, and boot camp is the birthplace of the Marine Corps. It's Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. And so throughout the Marine Corps illustrious history, famous battles were won by a very small group of Marines. And so they started getting more and more noticed for their ability to fight. And so
Marines are tough.
yeah, one such battle is the Battle of Belleau Woods, which is World War One, and that's where the name Devil Dog came from, because the Germans who came against the Marines in the Battle of Belleau Woods saw that our fighting, we fought with such, the fighting spirit, that they gave us the name Tufelhunden. Now, Tufelhunden means devil dog. Tufel means devil, Hunden means dog. And so that's where the name comes from. Devil Dogs is the Battle of Bellewood.
And where was that fought?
It was in Germany.
Okay.
The Belleau Woods is in Germany.
How did the Marines get there?
We were brought there by ship.
Okay, as part of the Navy.
As part of the Navy, yes.
So 243 years the Marines have been around.
Correct.
Do they have any special traditions, or I know it's not really a banner year, but do they have any yearly traditions?
Yeah, on the Marine Corps birthday, it is tradition that the oldest Marine in the room is recognized, and the youngest Marine is recognized. And in the cake cutting ceremony, those two, they'll call out and say, do we have the oldest Marine in the room? And he can be from any conflict. He can be from World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And then they'll ask for the youngest enlisted or former Marine.
Active
Marine, and he'll come forward. And those, they'll ask for the youngest Marine, and they'll ask for the youngest Marine. And then those two will come forward. And the oldest Marine will cut the cake, and the youngest Marine will cut the cake and offer the first piece of cake to the oldest Marine. And then the oldest Marine will then serve the cake to the youngest Marine. Now that is symbolic to the youngest Marine respecting the experience of the older Marine,
Right.
and the older the older Marine giving the slice to the younger Marine is recognizing that he's passing down his experience
And knowledge.
and knowledge, exactly,
And pride.
and pride, exactly, and basically charging the young Marine with always being faithful. That's where Semper Fidelis comes from. It's Latin for always faithful, and you'll hear Marines say that to each other all the time: Semper Fi, Semper Fi, Semper Fi.
Right.
It's what we kind of stand for. So someone coming in the Marine Corps today will be told, listen, you're not just joining the Marine Corps today.
It's a lifelong
This is
endeavor.
a lifelong, and this is a lifelong commitment. Long after you hang up your uniform, you're still going to be charged with, being faithful to the Marine Corps, not ever embarrassing the Marine Corps, not ever, doing anything that would bring shame to the Marine Corps.
Right.
You're still going to be charged with that. So a lot of times, Marines will say, my enlistment has no expiration date, because it doesn't. And so you are, in essence, a Marine for life.
So let's say you're at a high school pep rally and you're up there talking to a group of kids. What some final thoughts, some final advice for them?
My advice to them would be, never give up. Just never give up. If you can move forward, just never give up. And that was never taught to me the way it was taught to me in the military. You will be put in situations, you will be challenged, you will be put into impossible, situations that you think you can't get out of. But just like that day, I drove through the gates of MCRD San Diego, and I thought, my God, what have I done? I've bitten off more than I could chew. That moment comes back to mind every time I'm put in a situation that's impossible or seems impossible. If you can get through Marine Corps boot camp, that is the end of your excuses. You should be able to do anything. And that 13 weeks over and over again, they keep showing you that, your mind can play tricks on you. You can do a lot more than what your mind says you can. You can go a lot further than you think you can. And that's taught to you over and over again. When you're thrown in the swimming pool and you're asked to tread for 5 minutes with full combat gear on, you're thinking, how can I do that? But you're taught technique and you're taught how to do it, and then you're charged with doing it. And then once you do it, having thought before you couldn't do it, there's a strong sense of accomplishments that sweeps over you to where you start becoming used to that. You'll see something and you'll think, I can't do that. But no sooner in your mind you'll say, yes, I can. And that one life lesson is pretty incredible.
So if there's a group of kids that are undecided in what they want to do once they get out of high school, it's like they don't have to decide. You can go into the military. You're going to come out bigger, stronger, faster, smarter,
Yes.
and with a resume.
Yes.
So don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. It's
a pleasure.
Been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for all the backstory and advice and good info on your life and your experiences. And hopefully you've inspired some kids out there to make themselves better and be a part of something bigger.
I thank you so very kindly for having me, sir. I really appreciate this. This is great. This is great. And if I may, to all those fellow Marines that are out there, Semper Fidelis, always faithful.
And a huge happy birthday to the Marine Corps, all the men and women that serve in every branch of the military. Thank you for your service.